Good morning, everybody. So this is the segment for... Sorry, Lee. This is the segment for news about the World Federation of Methodist and Uniting Church Women. I am so enthusiastic about the World Federation and so happy that we get to be a unit in this worldwide sisterhood. It's so exciting. So I'm the Helen Kim Memorial Scholar. Some of you may not know what that is. When I became the Helen Kim Memorial Scholar, I asked the previous scholar what it is, and she didn't know either, so don't feel bad. So there are 9 areas of the World Federation. Our area is the Britain and Ireland area, and Barbara is our area president. There are 2 Helen Kim Memorial Scholars per area. I'll be talking a bit more about that in a minute, but first. So I wanted to tell you all a little bit about the Helen Kim Memorial Scholarship. We have these beautiful new publicity things that Lee has put a lot of effort into. We've all put a lot of effort into, but Lee is particularly our guiding light in the matter, especially because she understands how to use Canva. So these things are very handy, and they do have a little piece on the Helen Kim Memorial Scholarship on the back, which I had a hand in writing, so hopefully it makes some modicum of sense. Not that it wouldn't have made sense. It's my it's my input which confuses it. I worded that poorly. So we are coming up to a point now where we're starting to look for the next scholar. Usually, the scholarship lasts for 5 years since we become the scholar at the World Assembly, which last time was on Zoom. This time is going to be in New Zealand. So I'm about I've only got a year and a half left. We only have a year and a half left. So we're looking now for the woman who's going to take over from me. The scholarship is a leadership development opportunity for young women aged between 18 and 30. The Methodist Church, for all its majority made of women, it's still quite patriarchal, isn't it? And the World Federation is very, very passionate about not overlooking young women who so frequently in the church and in the world just don't have a voice for themselves. A lot of the time, as a young woman myself, I am deeply, deeply grateful for all of the older women, my spiritual mothers, who've advocated for me over the years. But through the scholarship, I have been equipped to advocate for myself, and that's a really, really beautiful gift that you have given me. So if you know any women, even if they think that they can't do it, because I thought I couldn't do this. I was so shy. Many of you met me when I came for the first time in 2022. I wouldn't say boo to a goose. Now I don't know if I would say... Geese are dangerous. But it's such a beautiful opportunity, and it can be whatever we make it. For me, my particular strengths lie in public speaking, which I hope is apparent, and in writing. And so that's the opportunities that have been given to me by MWiB and by the World Federation. But the young woman who comes after me, it will play to her strengths. So please do pick up one of these little things and one of the posters as well, and spread the word, because this is fantastic, and whoever comes after me is going to be so blessed. I'm going to pass over to Barbara.
Could we go with the... Thank you. I think that Benita and Madeline have said so much of what I want to say, which is good because I've been told you must finish within the 15 minutes and you are on for timing me. And the first thing that I want to say is that Last time I spoke to you, and I think the time before, I encouraged you to think about coming to Porto. And I know that that wasn't possible for everybody. And I don't want to rub people's faces in it and say, you didn't come and it was great. But I want you to know that it did happen and it was great. That the people who went really found not just that it was a nice place, the food was good, all those things, but that it was a real time of blessing. And I want you to hold that thought because, as Madeline has said, the World Assembly, as I've told you before, is coming up ere long. And we just slipped another slide in here because those of you who know the area will know that Lilla is my oppo. She is the area president for Europe brackets continental, and she is out of action at the moment because she has just quite late in her life story, has given birth to her first child, young Benjamin, and there is much rejoicing. Next slide, please. So, some of the things that are coming soon. And one of the things I want to start with bigging up, and I want you to go away and big up, is the Easter offering. Now, the Easter offering has for so long been connected with MWiB, because we put in, we do the heavy lifting on this. And those of us who are involved in writing the service and doing the public, we know about that. But we are no longer, as women, and I feel stupid saying this, looking at this room full of people, we no longer have the strength that we did as women in every area. And it's really important that the church has the message that this is not about MWiB. There are people who say, oh, we're not having the Easter offering in our area, we're not raising money for Methodist women. It is not for Methodist women. And you'd still get people saying this. I wrote an article for last week's Recorder. If you get hold of that, or somebody might have a copy in the room, take a copy of that if you want the article from me. We've written to every superintendent minister. But for you, I think the task is to keep giving this to the church, because by this we raise 1/10 of all the money for the global relationships teams outwork. We raise 1/10 of the World Mission Fund by this work. And if we don't do it, then that's stuff that can't happen in churches across the world. 1/10 of that happening there and there is because of our work. And we need to really push on that, I think. And if you'd like to join in with the writing of the service, you don't have to have a service. But if you want to join in with the writing of it, then please come and talk to me, because part of my job is to coordinate that. And this year's service, Ruth wrote, and it has a focus on the education of women. Next slide, please. Thank you. We have started meeting online as European women. Please join us. We met just before Christmas. We listened to people from across Europe talking about what Christmas meant for them. We said, did you like that? People said, yeah, we liked that. So we're going to do it again. And we're doing it thinking about Easter, and it's this Thursday. And every second Tuesday of every month at the moment, there is a Methodist Church initiative, the name of which has just gone out of my head. Whole heart, thank you. And the second half of that includes a world church slot that is really informative and helpful. Not to say anything of the first bit, this week they've got Rowan Williams, What's Not to Like. 18th of October, I hope you're noting these dates, taking a photograph of the screen. We've got the World Fed Day. This year it's going to be in Harrogate. And as Madeline has trailed, in next summer, we have the next World Assembly. The next World Assembly, next slide please, will be in Auckland, New Zealand. There will be a better picture for it, but for the moment we've got this one, because you might want to be puffing out the sides of your piggy bank and stuffing in whatever you can. Some people will say, oh, New Zealand's a long way. It's not if you live in New Zealand. And it's not if you live in Australia or South Africa or many of the other places where Methodist women live. For us, it's further to travel, but that's the point of being part of a worldwide movement. And in fact, it's never been in the Asia-Pacific region before, ever. So this is the big opportunity. Next slide, please. But we need a better logo. I feel awkward about this. There's kind of a prize, but I don't know what the prize is or how much it is. But if you are good at graphic design, apparently we have a logo design competition. I've got the details of that. Every year, the American Methodist women pay for women across the world to study at the World Council of Churches through something called the Bossy Fellowship. We had the right to apply for this 2 years ago, and nobody applied, but we had to turn it round in about 10 minutes. If you know some young woman who is a lay woman who would really benefit from being sponsored for a short course in theology, get on our website and put in Bossy. All the information is there. It's not a description of some of us, it is the name of the fellowship. Oops, I think I've blushed. And there are loads of committees. If you go on the Methodist Church website at the moment and look at opportunities, vacancies, the World Mission Fund, the thing we raise 10% of the money for, they want more trustees, people to help work out how to spend the money. Are you applying for that? Because you could. And there's loads of other ones as well. You know, look at this, look at the dynamism in this room, look at the ability in this room. We should be sticking our names in hats there. And as Madeline has brilliantly explained, we are now beginning the process of looking for our next Helen Kim Memorial Scholar. And also, I give up my role at the same World Assembly as Madeline steps down. So we are looking for a new area vice president. It swaps between Britain and Ireland every 5 years. So this person would effectively be replacing Carolyn Lawrence, who was the vice president before. But the opportunities are pretty much the same. And for me, I'm not actually dead keen on travel anymore, but the meeting with women from across the world, the thing you get to do when you get there, the people that you are with, the way that enlarges your mind and the opportunities that has, I thoroughly recommend that. So the process for both of those, we have not yet put the advert together, we're just working on that. And we are looking at a timeline which will mean interviews in October, November. So this will appear, it will come out in publicity, it will come out on the website and through the social media channels and everywhere else. But now, how come there are this many posters left? Get a poster. There's a marvellous poster here with a picture of the 4 current European scholars on it. Now, you can, if you're feeling brave, take a big one. If you're feeling shy, take a little one. I will. Here.
Barbara!
Yes!
Stand at the microphone!
I'm standing where the posters are! Here! That was a woman showing you where the posters are. There's loads left. They are no use in Leonora's boot. They need to be in your church, in your synod. Wherever you're going, take them and chuck them out. Let's get people to embrace these opportunities. Next. We're done.
Well done, Barbara. Yes, taking on that passion that Barbara and Madeline were showing, and Benita. These are wonderful opportunities, diverse group of us. We are awesome women, aren't we? Sorry. We're awesome women, aren't we? Yes, I like that energy, thank you. As I said, Maggie would have been here. Last night, you'd have seen Maggie in her Salvation Army. It's 19th century with her bustle. Are you there, Maggie? Yes. She has got a bit of her voice back. So the idea of this section is giving Maggie a chance to reflect on her 3 years. And then I will reflect on my time and what we're hoping to do in the future. So over to you, Maggie.
Good morning, everybody. First of all, I'd like to thank you for the beautiful flowers and all the kind messages that I've had. They've been really, really appreciated. As you see, my voice is back and I'm hoping it will hold for a little bit this morning. I had to cut an awful lot of slides. There's just so much looking back over 3 years. So this is really almost a random snapshot of what I've been doing and what for me has been quite significant. So could I have the first slide, please? COVID. It's been mentioned several times this morning that COVID really did rather put things in a wilderness, and it was at that time that I really joined in with what was going on. Bruce Parrott's commissioning, my interview and commissioning were all done on Zoom, and lots of Methodist Women in Britain groups closed because they couldn't meet and were unsure whether or not they'd be able to open up again. So it was a difficult time, but it was a time that there was a lot of energy put into restructuring, looking at the Constitution and trying to get all the ducks in a row so that when COVID was over, we could really come back with a lot of energy. Next slide, please. It's all her fault. This lady is called Margaret Potter, and her husband, who was a URC minister, when he and I retired, we moved to Manningtree. There was no URC in Manningtree. The nearest one was about 10 miles away, so we thought we'd have a look at the Methodist Church, and we were made very welcome there. And as soon as we joined, Margaret was on my case. Have you heard of Methodist Women in Britain? It's absolutely fabulous. It's fantastic. And I had to agree with her. She started off gently. She wrote me in to do tea and coffee for Sandra Goodwin's visit to our church, talking about Tabitha House. She then invited me to the district weekend at Hoddesdon that was led by Anne Browse, and as I say, the rest is now history, so it's all her fault. Next slide, please. Inspirational women. First of all, the inspirational women that have made an awful lot of impact on me have been the trustees and the ambassadors in Methodist Women in Britain. They are amazing, and it's been an absolute joy and privilege to work with them. I've always been a keen reader, and the writings of people like Maya Angelou and Eleanor Roosevelt have made, again, a significant increase in my understanding of complex issues, something that, it comes with time, I think, as well as education, to be able to look at complex issues and be able to unpick them. But I also want to give tribute to the inspirational women in my family who have also had a big impact. My grandmother, who took over running the family business when her husband became ill, long-term ill. My mother, who decided that she was going to work full-time to cover the costs of my sister and I going to grammar school. And my Aunt Jerry, her sister, who was a nonconformist in every sense, and surprised us all by getting married and learning to drive at the age of 45. Really has been an inspiration. Next slide, please. Links with Pakistan. This has been something that I've found quite helpful. Bishop Kaleem John from Hyderabad and his wife Rebecca, I met them in London. Rebecca is head of nursing, and they are very keen to be more involved with Methodist Women in Britain, but unfortunately other issues such as politics and church life has made it a little slow, but we're meeting again in June before I step down. Next slide, please. This is me with the bishop. He's particularly interested in empowering girls and young women, and would like to see an opportunity to send a delegate from his church to Methodist Women in Britain at Swanwick. Been following all that with interest. Next slide, please. And this is Rebecca, his wife. And she's head of nursing. And because I was also involved in nursing education, once we got talking, I'm afraid the poor bishop didn't get much of a look in. And again, we had to be told that we had well run over our time, which was a great shame. But she's a lovely lady, and she's been particularly interested in what we're doing about women's health, period poverty, Barbara's interview with those sorts of things. Next slide, please. Working with Catherine, Mothers Union. Again, this was an introduction from Hilary. Met up with Catherine. She's very keen to explore some of the joint issues that we have. And again, she's been a very inspiring person to work with. She came to conference last year. She is now stepped down, but we are still keeping in touch and looking at issues. Next slide, please. This was some of the lovely ladies from the Mothers Union conference at Highley, where I was invited to speak and talk about what Methodist Women in Britain is doing, and it was a fabulous weekend. The only downside was that there was a quiz night on things to do with the Mothers Union, and unfortunately I didn't do very well, but that's not really surprising. Next slide, please. Porto. We've already heard about Porto, and I have to just reinforce that it was an amazing experience, a real eye-opener for me. When you talk about World Federation, it doesn't really do justice to the impact that meeting together with people from across the world can have on it. And for me, it was an amazing experience. Slide, please. Meet and greet. For me, that was the most important thing. It was a real joy to meet and greet people where language didn't seem to be a barrier. There were people from all over the world, all ages, different languages, different cultures, and yet we all came together and we gelled. And that impact, that ability to go into a room and talk with people, find out that we all had a lot of things in common in our churches, the pressures of family life. Lots of the ladies there were in a similar situation to where I was at the time, where I had caring for my mother and my aunt, and also caring for grandchildren, and the impact that can sometimes have on all the other things that you want to do. So, next slide, please. Now, the Porto flowers for me were very symbolic. Ruth Parrott and I took roses, felt roses, to symbolise Britain and other countries. That all the flowers were put together in a display, and then at the end we were invited to go and take a flower from another country and bring it home. And my mimosa is still sitting on my bookcase shelf. Reminds me every day of the fun that we had. Next slide, please. Worship at Porto. That was, for me, mind-blowing, because there we were, worshipping without borders. There was nothing in the way of us communicating and worshipping together, and the atmosphere in the room was just, well, you couldn't speak about it. It took your breath away, and I'll never forget that. It was something that I hadn't experienced much before, but it really felt like a lived experience of the love of God. Next slide, please. Daffodil Day. Well, Margaret Potter took me to my first Daffodil Day, and the idea of daffodils, and their promise of hope always struck me as a very important thing. Last year I was interviewed by Pam Rhodes, which was a slightly nerve-wracking experience, but she was very good at putting me at my ease. And this year it was Leonora's chance to say something about Methodist women in Britain and what we were about. And I think it's lovely that we get that opportunity to spread the word, because, as was said earlier, not everybody knows and understands what we are about. Next slide, please. Code of Hope at Lincoln. I put that in because I saw the Code of Hope at Lincoln. Leonora said earlier, I'm involved with a steampunk group, and they were meeting in Lincoln that weekend. I saw the Code of Hope. I met the people who do the pilgrimage with it. And it caught my eye because I'm one of those people that love fabrics and love crafts. And each square on this coat is made up of people's ideas of hope in the light of global world situation regarding climate change. So people have produced these little squares. They've all been sewn together, and more continue to be added. And so it's actually made into a coat that can be worn, and it's carried around the country by pilgrims to raise this awareness. And just a few days ago, I was delighted to hear that the Code of Hope is actually going to be coming to my home church just for one night as part of its Easter pilgrimage. So that for me is amazing. If you get a chance to see it anywhere, I would say go. It's fun. Right, please. Dora Project. I was very pleased to be involved with the Dora Project, because basically, for me, it's supporting the hidden victims of the war in Ukraine. These young girls often have lost their parents, lost their homes, had their education disrupted, very vulnerable. And the church there is stepping in to support them and to give them a program that will give them a chance of perhaps more independence, put them less at risk. Next slide, please. This is one of the young girls with her bundle. You'll see she's got a big blanket, because education in Ukraine is normally quite a cold affair. And having been to Ukraine and given talks in the school, everybody sits at the desk wrapped in a warm blanket, but also they're wrapped in a warm blanket of love and support. And I'm hoping to visit as soon as the situation allows me to. Next slide, please. Easter offering services. It's been a joy and a challenge to be involved with writing Easter offering services and taking Easter offering services. Again, it's a practical way of raising funds, but it's also a wonderful way of exploring and working together in a creative way with other people to produce not only the purpose, but all the prayers. And when you get messages from people saying, oh, I used what you did last year in the service, we actually took it away and we used it for an afternoon session, or we based an away day around one of the stories. So it's a wonderful thing, and you know, all that Ruth service will have so much in it that can be used not just for the Easter offering service, but for other things. Next slide, please. Writing for the Methodist Recorder. This was challenging me on skills that perhaps I hadn't used for quite some time. And so I wrote an article bearing really on the Manningtree witches, because in my area, blue plaque has just been put up to recall the awful misogyny, historic misogyny, against ladies by a self-appointed Witchfinder General, called Matthew Hopkins. And so ladies were pointed out as witches, they were tortured and killed. Those ladies had done nothing more than perhaps been seen talking to their cat. And as I have long conversations with my dog, if I was alive in those days, he probably would have come for me. But it's I think it's important to remember from history, awful misogyny and dreadful things happen because good people don't intervene. So for me, that was the important thing that I wanted to say through writing that particular article. Next slide. Representing MWiB, all sorts of opportunities. This one was attending a funeral for a past network president, Elizabeth Dunn Wilson, who was again an inspiring lady. But it is a privilege to be asked to go and represent MWiB, and I've enjoyed the opportunities that I've had there. Next slide, please. Surprising things happen. I was on holiday and somebody said to me, "You're to do with Methodist Women in Britain, aren't you?" I met somebody and I said, "Oh yes." He said, "Well, we have Morecambe Church once a month where we walk through the village and we pray for the village, we take our dogs for a walk and then we come back and have a barbecue. Would you like to come? And then you could tell us all about Methodist Women in Britain afterwards." So that's Gizmo and I in the woods on the walk on our way back to the church for cheeseburgers and various other nice things. Next slide, please. Period poverty campaign. This was an amazingly practical show of Christianity, and it does seem to be something that the important part for me is that it gives dignity to people, encouraging churches to have period products, incontinence products available in the loos. People can take if they need them without question, because it is a great concern that women are losing time from work, girls are becoming unwell because they can't afford the appropriate. I was very pleased to be involved with that. Next slide, please. Methodist Conference. Great sadness that we no longer have a seat. But we do host visitors. And we have a bigger presence at the conference this year because we have a stall. So although we may not have a seat, we still have a voice. We still want to let the Methodist Church know that we are very much here. And also the Mary Bosanquet lecture again points out just what Methodist women in Britain are doing, even though we haven't got a seat at the table. Next slide, please. District Day, this one was at Hoddesdon. District Days are great. I love District Days. Just being able to share and to have fun and meet people. We may not seem to be doing anything terribly significant. It's that gathering together, making friends, it's important. Next slide, please. Chatting after worship, the joy of sharing. These ladies were telling me all about their lives in network with what became Women in Britain. They did an awful lot and they were great fun to talk. Next slide, please. District weekends. District weekends are also very good because they give you a chance to get into debt. I had a weekend at St Leonard's in Hastings, and we had a district day followed by me leading the morning service and then a social gathering in the afternoon. It was hard work. I was quite tired, but it was just such a lovely feeling of us all coming together. Next slide, please. This again is another interesting thing. You just get invited to go to coffee mornings, and coffee mornings seem to be fairly simplistic things. Those informal chats over coffee, again, can spark the real interest, and I've enjoyed doing that. Next slide. This was interesting. I was invited to Romford for their Flyby Day and to talk at Methodist Women in Britain. And I finished up learning something new, which I do at most places, but this one was particularly interesting. East Ingles, which you haven't heard of. It's like Chris Ingles at Christmas, but it's telling the story of Easter using hot cross buns and Haribo sweets on sticks. I've used that an awful lot. Next slide. Pilgrimage crafts at Bradwell. Bradwell in Essex is a site of pilgrimage. It's the one nearest to me, and it happens every year. It goes. It's right by the sea, and so I was asked if I would go and do some crafts at Bradwell, which I thoroughly enjoyed. I didn't do the whole walk, I'm afraid. I was carrying too many heavy bags. But having people come from all over the country to Bradwell, it's one of those places where they talk about being a thin place, close to God. We had a wonderful time doing the crafts. Next slide, please. And this is the outside worship at Bradwell. It was just a field, and for those that couldn't stand, there were bales of hay for us to sit on, and it was just wonderful to worship in the air, out in fresh air. Next slide, please. The Epworth Heritage. Part of my role has been a trustee for Epworth, and again learning all about the heritage and how we can keep all those things. It's been amazing, and I've been blessed to learn an awful lot, particularly about Wesley's ideas about medicine and health. I found particularly interesting, and the physics garden is still there and is being developed. Next slide, please. This was a group of ladies that I met in Bexhill. I had a phone call from one lady saying, I think I'm the only one left. I don't think we can carry on. And I said, well, hang on a minute. I will come down and we'll have a meeting and see where we go from there. And after cups of coffee and Swanwick's wafers, as I call, being on the menu, it became clear that there was something that we could do and we could start again. And so that little group is now starting to build and thrive. Next slide, please. Wesley's Chapel. Now, again, I'd heard of Wesley's Chapel, but I hadn't been there before. And I was quite amazed. It was almost like going back in time. It's very small, and I felt oversized in there. I stood by the pulpit and looked at the stairs going up to the pulpit, and I thought, it wouldn't be safe for me to go up there. Everything seemed very tiny. It reminded me very much of my Sunday school days. Next slide, please. Yeah. So there's the pulpit and the steps, and my head is, quite high. But it was an interesting place. Lots and lots of history in there, and lots of things still going on. It's still used for worship. It's still used for days, study days, concerts. For me, the funny thing though was that somebody said to me, "Oh, have you seen Wesley's tree?" So I said, "No, I've heard of it, but I've not seen it." They said, "Come with me, I'll show you." And with great enthusiasm was telling me all about this tree, until somebody tapped him on the shoulder and said, "Actually, you've got the wrong tree." So I was then taken off to see Spike Milligan's grave, which was not far away, where he said in Gaelic, "I told you I was ill," and I liked his sense of humour. Next slide, please. commissioning Leonora for me was a real. It felt like a real step forward. Both Bruce Parrott and I had our commissioning on Zoom, and here we were, all there, meeting in person to commission Leonora. And to me, that signified that journey from the wilderness of COVID to commissioning Leonora, we had made great progress, and that hopefully the problems of COVID were behind us. Next slide, please. So my last slide. What am I up to next? Well, I'm around for the next few months. I've got various things that I'll be doing. I'll be going to conference and all of those sorts of things. But the highlight for me is my visit to Rwanda, which is the 2nd to the 11th of June, where I'll be visiting universities and health facilities. And I've also been told that I'm down to preach in a rural church on Pentecost Sunday. So that will be, again, another exciting experience. I'm not going to go away. I still want to be very much involved with Methodist women in Britain in some way or other, whichever way it transpires. But I do hope that after I've finished and after I've had time to write up about my trip to Rwanda, that you might like to invite me to come and talk to groups about my experience and to share with you. So that's my final slide. Thank you very much for all your love and support. And don't forget, I shall still be around to do things to support Methodist women in Britain, to continue to support Leonora and the person who comes after me, because the person who comes after me will know this is a wonderful, wonderful experience, and I wouldn't have missed it for the world. Thank you.
Thanks, Maggie, and I'm so pleased your voice held out. We do want to thank you for all that you've brought to Methodist women in Britain over the last 3 years as Vice President and then co-chair. I did send flowers from us all because normally that's what would happen. Couldn't quite get the technology, you know, when they give an Oscar and suddenly it appears at the other end. But anyway, thank you so much, Maggie. I look forward to continuing for the next few months. We have our Monday morning little chats, don't we? And we look at what we're doing and who's doing what. And so I shall miss those, but we'll still be in touch. But do ask Maggie to come. And I said, once you have been a co-chair president, you always are. And I'm going to do something I hadn't thought about. Can all ex-presidents, co-chairs, stand up? There's a few of you. Yes. There you are. Well done. Thank you. So, yes, you always remain right. I came into this role. Oh, get my computer to work. Right. Keep going. All right. I've just got to get the thing to work. Put in my password because it's gone to sleep, like me. No, come on. Oh dear. Talk amongst yourselves. Oh, at last. Right. Okay, so my slides. I was asked, what project do you want to support? Well, I can't make up a difference between what to have for dinner, this or that. So thinking about all the projects, and I didn't know what the projects were because I'm not a lifelong Methodist Women in Britain member. I took the Easter offering services as a minister, but that was it. So I have no understanding, no history, so it's all new. And I thought, well, each district have projects that they raise money for all the year. So I wanted to do something a little different. I wanted us to look at campaigns, because we got the justice bit. We've done the women. So I wanted us to look at different issues. So we had our first trustees meeting, and I said, right, what are the issues facing women? We got to 30. How do we choose from 30? So then we had our exec meeting, and we still couldn't quite make up our mind. But then came October. We're thinking about the international... Oh, can I have my slides? Sorry. Yes. On the 25th of November is the International Day for the Elimination of Violence Against Women. It's a United Nations thing. Nowhere in the world is a woman safe from violence. The strengthening of global commitment to counteract this plague is a movement whose time has come. Next slide, please. It was set up because in 1960, 3 sisters were murdered in the Dominican Republic. These sisters were married, but they wanted there was a dictator who was so bad that if you wanted to get married, it was his privilege to have the first night. It was that bad. But it would torture dictators. And so they had an underground movement, and they were known as the Butterfly Sisters. And so when they were murdered, they caused such an outrage that within 6 months, the dictator was assassinated. The sisters became a symbol of democratic and feminist resistance, and they were, as I said, known as the Butterflies. Next slide, please. And women's activists have observed that date as a day against gender-based violence since 1981. The date was selected to honour them. And on the 20th of December 1993, the General Assembly adopts the Declaration of the Elimination of Violence Against Women. And that paved the way towards eradicating violence against women and girls worldwide. And it finally became part of the resolution in the UN. Right. Next slide, please. So, with only a month to go, we decided we're going to do 16 days of activism. Did anyone see that on Facebook? Yes. Right. So we put this together, Ruth and I, Ruth Dawson, who's our media resource person. So we put this together, and it went onto the Methodist website. So every 10 minutes in the world, a woman was killed. Such murders are qualified as gender-based violence and the most prevalent form of human rights violation in the world. 1 in 3 women experience violence in their lifetime. And it's also more likely to lead to depression, anxiety, and unplanned pregnancies, sexually transmitted infections with long-lasting consequences, and of course, suicide. And so the UN said, no excuse, this has to stop. And so we put out that Methodist women in Britain wish to stand alongside all caught up in gender-based violence. No one should live in fear of violence because of their gender. So as a global movement, we can affect change by amplifying the voices of those experiencing violence. We need to speak up and speak out, challenging long-held practices and beliefs. So we invite all to join in these 16 days of activism. So we did that, but it wanted to go further. I'm on the Connection on Domestic Abuse group, and I've been doing some training. I wanted to go into this. I need to know more, gather facts. 41% of domestic abuse happens within church congregations. We don't talk about it. We're nice people, aren't we? And we know through safeguarding, no, they're not. So we're wanting to take the lid off and say it's all right to talk about domestic abuse. It's all right to talk about periods. Years ago, when I was a child, we didn't talk about it. Opening up those channels that we can be freed and be able to stamp out. I went on the Disruptor course, which is to help stop domestic abuse happening. So we can't stop the domestic abuse itself, but we can disrupt things. So if we see someone who is being harassed, you go and stand with them. Ask the time. Could you show me the way to stop? So you disrupt the behaviour. Well, that can be for anything. If someone is being abused because of their ethnicity and culture, that we go and stand alongside them. And so I was asked to join the National Council of Women's international group. And the first thing I find out, next slide please, was the United Nations CSW. Anyone heard of it? Oh, wonderful, wonderful. It's the Commission on the Status of Women. So I went to FTG, not what the heck, but FTG, and said, I'd like to go. Would Methodist Women in Britain pay for this? And so we had discussions in FTG and in the exec. And we did this at an exec way day, and I went off and they discussed. And when I went back, they'd all got long faces. And I'm going, okay, Lee, you've got to be an adult here. If they say no, whatever. And I was, they said, yes, you can go, as long as you take a big suitcase and bring lots of things back. So you'll see on the exec, hang on, I've forgotten it. The little thing there. Can you see? Oops, right. It's that. Yeah, I got that. So anyway, I'll tell you about that in a minute. Bearing in mind, time. Yeah. For all women and girls, rights, equality and empowerment. So I did get to go. What a privilege to be able to go and be there. Next slide, please. So, and I've got, oops, there we go. Come on, there we go. Meant to be round my neck. There we go. My official badge. It was official. But I went 2 weekends, weekend before and the weekend after, and there's nothing going on at the weekend at the UN. I wanted to do method things. The Methodist Women in Britain had sent me. I wanted to meet up with Methodist women in America. They've changed their name to Women of Faith. I hope we are too. But there we go. So I went and got my badge, and I went to church. And I Googled nearest church to my hotel, Times Square, and their website said, oops. So it's crashed or whatever. So I went to the next one. So I go to this church, and this is Michael, who is from the streets. And you go to the church, and it's cafe style. You go in, you get a hot cup of coffee. I didn't know they had warm cider as well. Never mind. But hot coffee. And we sat chatting. The first person I met was Virginia, who turned out to be the president of their local Methodist women. So we're chatting away. But Michael thought it was his role to introduce me to everyone during worship, dragging people in. But there was a visiting professor talking about scandalous love. You know, the woman who washed Jesus' feet with tears and wiped. We are to offer scandalous love to people. So that was my beginning. I'm not going to give you a full talk because what I'm going to do is come round the district. This is just a quick snapshot. So in that picture, oh, next slide, sorry. Can you find Lee? Not where's Wally, where's Wassle? Right? In the left-hand corner, there's a little face peering out. That's me. There were 120 of us that went from Britain. And so we met. We met this night with the parliamentarians. So we had 6 MPs had gone from the Women and Equalities group in Parliament. And chatted away and had all the photographs. They were all getting selfies with Harriet Harman and, yes, all the big wigs. I kept forgetting. But there are also lots of seroptimists, lots of groups. And they had selfies. And selfie of one is very sad. And at that point I said, I wish more of you could have been there. But every morning there was worship at the UN church, which is owned by the Methodist Church. And I met with people from different cultures, different countries, and it was justice and joy, and it was a great delight to worship every morning. These, I just want to go very quickly through. Next slide. Some snaps of me actually there. I am actually there. This is in the plaza. That's me actually in the chamber for the opening ceremony. I had to get a special pass for that, of which I needed the letter that I got that pass with, which was left at the office. So I'm in the queue, which is huge. And luckily, I'd sent a picture of it to the exec saying, it's official. And that was sufficient. Got me in, I'm there. It was awesome to be there in that chamber. To listen to the United Nations Secretary General saying that women's issues are human rights issues. They are to be fought, that we shouldn't be fighting for them. They should be there. 30 years ago, there was the Beijing meeting, a declaration and a platform for change. So this year they were looking at what's happened in the 30 years. How far have women's movement, how far are we more embraced in society? There has been movement, but there's a hell of a long way to go. We had a town hall, next slide, sorry. We had a town hall meeting. In America, they have town halls. And that's me in the council where the UN business works. And I'm at a desk listening to the speeches, to be there. And and you can see I put Methodist women. There's a little, my bag, there we go. And it's saying who we were. One of the things, I went clerically dressed. Although I'm Methodist women in Britain, I am a presbyter. And I got a lot of attention because I got a rainbow round. So it started conversations. So I wanted to share a little bit of why I'm Rainbow Rev. I came out in my theological training. It was the 1993, the beginning of the Methodist journey, looking at sexuality. I was ordained as an Anglican, and I was told not to tell the bishop. Good. I told him the night before I was ordained, because I thought we can't do anything about it now. But I had to hide who I was. My marriage broke up, and the newspapers were onto it and all of that. I then changed to be a Methodist. I joined the Methodist Church. And again, the question was never asked, but it was implied, don't tell anyone. So I moved to my first appointment in York with my partner then, Alison. Within a year and a half, I was called to the chair's manse. I understand you're in a lesbian relationship. Is that true? I said, yes. And he said, where would you like to move to? I can move you anywhere in the country. So I moved back to Leeds with Michael Townsend. And again, he said, don't tell anyone. I had to hide who I was because the church was not ready for it. Alison was my friend. No, she was not my daughter, as some people had thought. And so that impacted on my health. Running 5 churches, my partner with bipolar, and her father dying, who was a Methodist minister. All of that impacted on me physically, of who I am. So at 49, I had to retire. And I then ended up in a wheelchair for 14 years. And I got to so bad that I couldn't pray. I would get a headache and a nosebleed. So I went on a silent retreat and said, God, what's the point in living if I can't pray and talk to you? And I visibly heard God say to me, I made you as you are, Lee. Go and be yourself. So I came back and I put the rainbow round my dog collar. I hadn't been to church for ages because I couldn't. The noise was too much. I did. I started to share my testimony, and within a month, I was out of my wheelchair. It was a miracle for me to be able to do it, because I was now my authentic self. And what I want to do, I was healed for a reason. Yes, I do talk a lot. God's given me a voice, and I want to use it. In my theological training, I wanted to be an advocate for all marginalised people, not just LGBT. So I was healed for a reason. I went back into ministry for 4 years during the pandemic. And I was able to share that. I asked, would it be a problem with me wearing this? I said, if it is, I won't take the appointment. Because wearing this gives people in the LGBT community that they are welcome. I'm saying my symbol here is you are loved by God. We are all created equal in God's eyes. So and people were standing proud. In church congregations, you've had to hide who you are, but you may have a daughter, you may have a son, a grandson who's now your granddaughter, all of that. And I wanted to preach and say, all are made in God's image. And some said, oh no, we're all made in God's image, male and female. And so I said, no, God's non-binary. Well, he nearly blew a gasket at that. Pure love. And so finally I sit down 4 years ago, 66, and that was it. I could now sit, crochet, and watch TV. It's her fault is sitting in the room. Ruth. I was invited to a Methodist women meeting, not last October, the October before. They needed a speaker for February. My friend knows everything about labyrinths, so I'm doing a talk on labyrinths. There's a free place at Swanwick. Would you like it? Yes, please. Anything free? Oh, no. It was wonderful. I come, and it says, we're looking for a co-chair. Okay, is this God movement? And I sat up all night that Saturday asking God, what me? Who me? Because I've been put down all my life, little Lee. And I heard God yet again saying, why not you? I will sustain you. So that's why I am Rainbow Rev, and I want to use that voice as LGBT, but a child of God and co-chair of Methodist Women in Britain. So, next slide. I go to the UN, so it did create a lot of, what's this all about? So I would say, I'm chair of Methodist Women in Britain, I'm a gay minister, and we get up those conversations. So I went to lots of different meetings. I met up with the Afghan women, women from Gaza, but I went to one that was very moving, end female genital mutilation and cutting. Not my problem. Yes, it is. Not happening near me. Yes, it is. It is a global issue on the rise, mainly because of population increase. And we often say the practice of genital mutilation. It's not a practice. It's an abuse, child abuse. And it's happening in this country, we know. Not always And it's not just cultural, so we can't assume it's misogyny. There's nothing in other faiths that say that we have to do this. So they are asking, speak out now, to look out for the signs. And so, yes, we have to have a voice and sit beside and amplify the voices of our sisters. Next slide. So it's working together in solidarity to build a future where gender equality is not an aspiration, but a reality. All these women, 13,000 of us, were there. The pushback is going ahead, we know, in the United States and other places. Afghanistan, 4% of girls are in education. After the year 6, they can't go into education. They can't train as midwives. And so their lives are they're trying to be erased. It also impacts the men, because the men have to escort the women to places if they want to get out of the house. The men have to be the only ones earning to look after the family. And so the suicide rate amongst men in Afghanistan is on the rise because of the pressure. So we must always think that, yes, we're working for women's rights. It does impact men, and we want to encourage them to come as allies. We all have a, next slide please, we all have a part to play. May I ask, if you would like to indicate, how many of you are over 80? Just a few, just a few. I've done my bit. Yes, done my bit. I know, no. We all have a part to play, because the lady on the right in the purple jacket is Margaret Owen. She's a human rights lawyer. She's 87. Still going strong, still passionate, not able to get about as much, and she does like to have people to, escort her to places. We demand concrete steps to advance the rights of all women and girls. And so what I got from there was, we're saying no more. This is the line in the sand. You can't go any, we will link arms together. I'm conscious now that I certainly have run over time. Next slide quickly, just to say, leaflets. Butterfly movement within the Methodist Church. I like the synergy. Butterfly is our symbol, the Mirabelle Sisters. So this November, in Wesley's Chapel in London, we will be having a service where Richard Andrew will be there to preach. We have the Assistant Secretary of Conference, we have the London Chair, and we'll be inviting lots of other people to come to this as a service of thanksgiving and affirmation so that's what we're trying to promote. So all the leaflets have gone, I'm afraid, but you will hear more about this. What we want to do is write material that you'll be able to use at your church, because not everyone can get down to London for 10:30 in the morning. So, London group, where are you? Yes? Don't be shy. We hope that you'll be there in force to come and support. I'm going to shut up now because we're running well over time. It's a great privilege to stand here and represent you, to go to places. I've been to 10 districts now. I don't wait to get invited. I turn up. I think that comes as being a presbyter. I didn't ask to be invited to coffee mornings. I went. And so I want to go around as many districts to promote Methodist women in Britain. You're already doing that, but I want to affirm you in what you're doing, not wait to be asked. But do ask me. I want to come round and talk about much more detail what I did at the UN and the butterfly movement. So I'm going to shut up because then we've only got 10 minutes for a break, I think. No, we come back at 11:15, isn't it? So do have a break, but do come and talk to me after lunch or before lunch to chat about it. As I said, thanks very much and God bless.